Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the RocketMSP Podcast. I'm Steve Taylor. I'm your host. Today I am joined by a couple gentlemen from DNSFilter. Welcome, guys. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, going great.
Awesome. So, we went live a couple minutes early. I just want to ask a couple icebreaker questions, and then we'll get into the real meat and potatoes. So for those of you wondering what the heck's going on, that's what's going on. So did you guys look into the Windows 11 announcement or anything about it at all?
Afraid not. No.
I was just laughing because Brian's like Mr. Linux over there. He's like penguin to the death. So
All right.
I did take a look at it. I mean, looks
Okay.
pretty. You're into that sort of thing.
It seems neat. They've got some pretty interesting requirements. I bet there's going to be a lot of ticked off business people. What do you mean my 6-year-old computer's not going to work?
Yeah, from the little eye that has scrolled in front of me, the compatibility question seems to be the biggest complaint so far. So,
yeah. Well, but if you think about it, it seems like they're doing that to get past a flaw in a bunch of Intel CPUs. So I kind of get it, but if it turns into a rolling requirement, like, oh, guess what? We're not going to support this CPU anymore come August. Like, wait, you're telling me my computer's going to stop working? Like, what?
right.
So, and I guess, in my opinion, it's like you never know with them. You're Mr. Linux, huh?
Yes. Yep. Everyone else seems to be Mac around me in our company, but I guess perks of being on early, I got to pick a nice System 76 machine and roll with that.
All right. So, I like the idea of Linux, but I don't like using Linux.
This is the year of the Linux desktop. You didn't know?
I think every year is supposed to be the year of the Linux desktop.
Supposed to be.
I'm sorry, guys, but it's going to be the year of Mac OS or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm a big Apple fan. I got my pencil right here just in case.
Do you have a new Apple Silicon Mac yet?
I do. That's what we're using right now. I actually, my M1 16 gigs of RAM performs better with most of the things I do than my i7 2018 i7 with 32 gigs of RAM. And that one had the fancy, I don't know, Radeon or Nvidia or what. I don't even care because, I didn't really use that function. But I don't game. Like, I do this kind of stuff, and I've got, 9,000. Let's see, it tells me. I have 49 tabs open in Chrome right now.
Sounds familiar.
I've got a Chrome extension just to tell me how many tabs I've got open. Because I'm an a-hole to my computer, so...
I know it's bad when the icons disappear.
Yeah, every time Brian does a screen share, it gives me anxiety. Like, oh my God. What are you doing to yourself?
Wait, is this for real? Is this happening?
Yes, every screen share. Everybody's like, a little mini panic attack. But Brian, that's how he lives. He's tab master.
Yeah, it's yeah. You have ADD, don't you, Brian?
Probably.
Like self-diagnosed, but not. Yeah. Okay. So, DNSFilter. So I've got Mikey and Brian. Mikey, could you tell me what is your role at DNSFilter?
I am the product manager here at DNSFilter. So what I it's been my time doing is listening to customers and trying to get their feedback to understand the direction we should take the product, features that everyone's clamoring for, and getting to the underlying root of their requests, because a lot of times people will say, I want a button that does this, and we just try to figure out why that is and try to build the best feature set to kind of meet their requirements as we can.
All right. And how about you, Brian? What is your role?
Well, I'm a co-founder and chief development officer. Basically, deal with anything software related, and then more recently been taking on some of the infrastructure as well.
Co-founder, that sounds important.
Yeah. Less and less over time.
It's okay.
Less over time.
All right. So I think I sent, who knows if you guys even looked at it, but I did send over some questions just in case you wanted to know what we're going to talk about. So when I think about DNSFilter, I think of a really cost-effective version of Umbrella.
So, that is one way to think of it. However, price is really not the only thing we'd like to compete on. When we do testing with new customers that come on, typically they find we're much more effective in terms of threats and phishing items that need to be blocked. The core of our product is a machine learning AI-based scanning engine, which can pretty near real time classify new sites as we see them, and it's very effective. We often in the last test we did, I think we were something like blocked 6 times the threats that Umbrella found, and the ones that they found, a lot of them were false positives or old things that were submitted and no longer relevant. So we tend to think of ourselves more as the first line of defense, since DNS is a core infrastructure on the planet, and it happens first in the list. We like to think of ourselves as an easy to implement, very early blocking tool.
And the thing that's really cool, in my opinion, with literally any DNS filtering solution, is you guys have some really simple kind of rules that we can follow. Is this a brand new domain? Let's just block it anyway. That kind of stuff. So, what would you say? Do you have any rules that are maybe a little more unique to DNSFilter? Rules, policies, whatever you want to call them?
So, it's good you mentioned the new domains feature because that is a big part of the problem that we've noticed. Not only new domains in general, but oftentimes attackers use new domains frequently to set up their phishing malicious tools. And we do, the large customer base means that we do get to see quite a few new domains as they appear. And because we can scan them so quickly, those are very often some sort of questionable site for sure. Let's see, as for blocking, let's see, Mikey, we have a significant feature set now, so trying to identify something that sets us apart.
One of the things that we have that some of the others don't is what we call our interstitial feature. It's kind of a work in progress feature. It's a little challenging, but it's a real-time scanning of domains, and it has proven effective greatly to specific customers that have turned it on and found blocked threats that were unknown to anyone else. So we'll scan them in real time and return our block page instead of the web content that could potentially infiltrate the machine. So that's one of the big ones.
Now, excuse me. I'm going to put a a little ticker down here. Oops, I did it wrong. And what this is going to do is this is going to have your domain name. And I got to say, I believe, unless I'm remembering this incorrectly, I believe your website, when you redid it, is built on Webflow.
Correct.
Why
Why?
not? There was actually an interesting, we had an internal discussion, and we found Webflow to be one of the easier things to implement, and it worked out really well from what we can determine so far.
I love Webflow. When I do web design for my clients, I now do it in Webflow. That was basically my new policy is 2021 and beyond. As of right now, everything's going to be Webflow. So I love that decision. I've found it to be much faster, much more secure. Like, I just feel like it checks off a lot more boxes than like WordPress or Wix. Well, I haven't really looked into like Wix and Squarespace and the like of those, but I feel like it's much better than those, if that makes sense. But I think a lot of that stuff is, opinion.
We came from WordPress too. We came from WordPress too, and it was getting to be painful.
It does, because you just to set up the site, now you've got like 13 plugins installed, and then maybe you want to add some more features, and a couple years in, now you realize you've got like 47 plugins installed, and like half your plugins are premium, and you've got 19 different invoices throughout the year for all these premium plugins that you've got to manage paying, and it's just a lot. So I get it. So kudos to you for looking into things and being comfortable with kind of going outside of the norm, in my opinion, and moving over to Webflow. When I look at your website, I love your website. It's just very easy. When we click on like the pricing box, you've got the pricing here. You've even got like some basic pricing for MSPs listed right there on the site. So kudos to you for being so transparent when it comes to putting information on your site.
Well, I mean, especially from the MSP's perspective, our CEO, Ken, came from his previous company, was a wireless ISP in Myrtle Beach. So he was originally a Cisco umbrella customer, or he was a Open DNS customer, and then they were acquired by Cisco, and kind of support went downhill. They weren't really focused on the MSP market. They were really more towards the large enterprise market. So pricing radically changed for him overnight. The feature set kind of slowly went downhill. It was just kind of a disaster. So I mean, his MSP, wireless ISP, was essentially the first test case for DNSFilter, and it's why we have a lot of the MSP features, like even white labeling and MSP's implementation, so that they get their own custom block pages, and even a branded dashboard. If they want to give customers accounts for their own networks, they can do that. Early on we were very MSP focused for sure. Oh, you're muted.
That's something I'm gonna have to remember. I've got the whole family here, so I'm trying to make sure if they cause chaos, we don't experience chaos. So I want to talk about company info, some philosophy type stuff. So you mentioned like kind of why you you guys built this, but let's talk about like what things look like today. Do you have any investors or anything like that?
We do. So we had some small, angel investing really early on. In 2018, we went through the Techstars Startup Accelerator program, and we've using Ken's past company and hitting the pavement hard for customers early on. We were able to bootstrap for quite a long time. But at the end of the day, we have a lot of interesting ideas that we want to pursue, kind of innovate in the DNS space. And to do that, we had to take on some VC funding. Our current investor, our largest investor, Arthur Ventures, they've been great. We're in line with kind of the direction we want to go. And I think the core is still the same. We do want to provide the most secure solution, the most reliable, high performant DNS network. The resources there have let us pursue that.
Awesome. Now, what about employees? Like, you're not a startup. You're not new. You've been around for a few years now, which means you've probably got a larger staff than I realize, and maybe a smaller staff than some people expect. So, like, how many employees do you have at DNSFilter today?
We're pretty close to the 50 employee mark.
And are all of your developers employees, or are any of them contractors?
Almost all are employees. There may be one or two unique situations, specialists, for example, that we may have had to hire. We do have an extensive roaming client solution that's installable agents. And in some cases, the specialties needed to implement those to provide, a secure DNS solution have been, it's been necessary to bring them on as contractors. But for the most part, almost everyone's employees now.
That makes sense. So, like, maybe when you first developed the app for roaming, maybe you brought in a specialist to make sure all the I's were dotted, T's were crossed. But now, today, you have, the right type of people on staff that they can manage and update that client as long as it's not anything too, out of left field or anything like that.
Yeah, and obviously we've come a long way. So some of these things were built when we were 5 to 10 people, and we had to do what was necessary. And now it's there's with 50 people, there's significant overlap in skill sets as well. We've found a talented group of people that's excited to be on the same path as we are. So they are also, it's not just continuing what others have built, it's actually taking it a lot farther in some cases as well.
Let's talk technical. Data sovereignty. Like you're getting some pretty extensive information about what all of my end users are doing. Some of them may have compliance that we all have to adhere to. So are you able to guarantee that data stays within a certain country or sector or whatever people need to do? So for the compliance portion, I mean, we've tried to remain in compliance with the majority of global requirements. In some cases, we haven't had the resources to go through the check the box in terms of some compliance items. And that is in our roadmap coming up for things like GDPR, for example. Due to the way that our Anycast network is set up, and due to the fact that our core infrastructure is in the United States, for some GDPR compliance, we have to restrict the data that's able to be collected and reported on, for example. We are working on an EU network that will limit traffic and keep it in the EU, which should allow us to extend that collection to those customers as well.
but yeah, we've tried our best with the small team we had early on to remain in compliance with as many things as we could.
Excellent. Well, I like hearing that. 2FA, MFA, single sign-on. What do you offer?
2FA is MFA is standard, available to everyone, and we would recommend it, obviously. As for single sign-on, our authentication provider supports it. We haven't had any customer come on that has required it to push the development effort forward. It's we're looking for that first test case, and but it should be supported. SAML and OAuth and the various single sign-on providers.
And I see $50 a month is what it starts at for MSPs. I remember a while back, anyway, you guys had two different types of pricing. It was user pricing or usage pricing, and then I remember a few months ago that changed.
Correct. Yeah. So we've gotten rid of the usage-based pricing for a few reasons. So primarily, it was confusion. So early on, we thought, hey, pay as you go was a useful thing, especially for smaller customers. However, it turned out that, especially the MSP market, nobody really comprehends request count, and it varies significantly based on industry, customer type. So it was a bit crazy trying to explain to every customer, like, okay, well, what does this actually mean in terms of dollars? And it turns out almost everyone prices by user. Companies know their employee count. MSPs typically are able to bundle us as part of their user count. So yeah, it was mainly just switching to something that's more consistent. It also prevented things like abnormal spikes in charges. So if something was misconfigured, if something was, they get an IoT device and it goes hectic and starts sending tons of requests through the system, they'd get this astronomical bill and be, amazed, how is this possible? And we'd end up having to go through a bunch of hoops to refund that. It was just super confusing. So we standardized everything, went to a per user model for everyone. And I think it makes things a lot more clear and reliable for the customer.
I like that. Now, I will say, I know some MSPs who they weren't like upset or anything like that by the change. They're actually worried by the change because their usage-based pricing, they were paying more. And so what they ended up doing was they were like, well, I just added like some extra users in there because I wanted to keep my pricing around the same because I wasn't trying to trigger some kind of like audit or getting fired by them or whatever else. Is this something you've seen?
So definitely people's prices fluctuated. About half went up and half went down. It was definitely on a case-by-case basis. And really, it came down to what types of users. When you're talking about daily, heavily technical users, their request count was typically higher. When you're talking about lesser used networks or industries that had very restrictive, web browsing, in those cases, it did go down. So we understand it's definitely a transition thing. We're working with the crazy outliers to figure out where the difference is. But I don't think we're looking to get rid of anyone entirely. I mean, if it's crazy abnormal, if they were paying us, $500, $1,000 a month, and they claim to have one user in the back office, we got to figure out what the deal is. That's all. But in so far, everyone's been understanding and worked with us.
Okay, and I think the reason that this happened is, they were doing usage based, and then when you switched everything to user only, they're like, all right, well, I've got a bunch of clients that, maybe they're a gym or something else, or like a salon, like they've got a few employees, or maybe they've only got like a couple computers, and then everything else is guest Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've got their own customers in there using the Wi-Fi, or maybe employees using the Wi-Fi on personal devices and doing whatever they do on their personal device.
Correct. Yeah. So there were some cases that came to our attention as we made this switch from legacy customers. The two cases we came across were, yes, the guest Wi-Fi issue. We do have a guest Wi-Fi option in our typical plans. For this legacy user case, I don't think that was initially available. So we're working on adding that now. The other edge case was education. So because education is significantly different, the student count typically doesn't change month to month very often. And on top of that, the usage pattern is significantly different. So our education price is less per user. It's a case that we didn't anticipate, where some MSPs had a mix of education and business customers, and we're working on adding that as well.
But aren't you guys supposed to anticipate like literally everything?
People have the weirdest setups sometimes. It just, every time we think we've got it covered, somebody calls us up with some unique case. So.
All right. So, I think that covers the pricing thing. What is the per user price for an MSP who wants to sign up today?
So it kind of depends on the feature set. Our user licensing type, the basic, pro, and enterprise, I believe the feature set is on the pricing page there. That is standard. The $50 minimum is required for MSPs. However, depending on which feature set, that depends on your minimum license count there. But somebody that doesn't need like per user reporting or roaming client support, who's just doing guest Wi-Fi, for example, the price is going to be different than someone that needs, mobile roaming clients. And, we're working on adding SIM integration. That's going to be more towards the enterprise level. But yeah, it's a discount on the per user price, and that depends on your tier level, essentially your spend level with us.
Okay. So where does the discount start?
20%.
What? Okay. So essentially, if we wanted to get started, and we wanted to be at like Pro, for example, with that feature set, are we selling Pro per client site, or can I just say this site's got 5, that site's got 7?
Correct.
I need 12 licenses.
Exactly.
And then because I've only got 12 now, I might only have $20-ish worth of licenses, but my minimum price is $50.
Exactly.
Okay. So it starts at a 20% discount off of the DNSFilter pricing tab when you look at Basic, Pro, Enterprise. And do you offer annual as well for the MSP?
We do. I think it's a 10% discount on the annual as well, on top of that.
Okay. And then what kind of tiers are we talking? Like, the no discount change for the first like million endpoints, and then
I think it's by dollar spend. The tier 1 is the $50 minimum. I think it's the $500 a month level. It's the next tier up, and then the last tier I think is $2,000 a month, Mikey.
Okay. Yeah. And so I could have a mix and match, mishmash, whatever you want to call it, of Basic, Pro, and Enterprise licenses to use across my clients.
Essentially, yes, and education as well, right?
And then with all of that, and also guest Wi-Fi?
Sure.
Okay. So, and then with all of that, could I have, like, at client A, a few basic users and then just a couple pro users? That way those users get the roaming client?
Yeah, so because the feature set is kind of per client, it's unique per client. So you have to pick a license type for that particular location. But yeah, if you have multiple clients, you can mix and match them for sure.
Okay. Well, that covers all the questions I have about the pricing. So let's talk about some of the new stuff that you guys have kind of released in the last. I don't know. I think it's been a few months. You've kind of hit us with a bunch, right?
That's the plan.
So,
Okay,
so what do we got?
Touching on pricing real quick, I just wanted to mention that we do have a generous 2-week free trial. And if you mention RocketMSP during your sales process, you can actually extend that to 30 days. So all the MSPs out there, please reach out to our salespeople and mention that you heard about us on this podcast, and you can extend your trial to 30 days and get a full month of testing under your belt before you have to pay anything. But regarding new features, the last 2 quarters have been pretty hectic. We've been trying to release a bunch of stuff. Steve, if you want to show my screen real quick, I think I could start with a quick demo of the product. What do you think? Oh, and here it is. Always this way. So this is the overview page of our dashboard. You can see the multi-tenancy features. Here we have an MSP dashboard, and there are some kind of global attributes that you can configure. And then underneath that is each of the organizations that I, as an MSP, am managing. I actually run my roaming client in the Wayne Enterprises organization, so I'm gonna stay in there to kind of go over quickly what the dashboard experience is like. So this is our overview page. You get some kind of quick hits on stats, like what's happening stats wise, and then some kind of deployment quick hits, like what do I have deployed on this particular organization, and then the domain count, what's popular domains in this particular org. And then kind of the 2 main areas that are required to set up our policies and deployments. I'll look at deployments first. So deployments are basically any network or any machine with a roaming client. And then we also have users and relays. I won't touch on those too in depth. I'm just going to kind of go over them at a high level. A site kind of represents a location, like Office 1, Office 2 type of thing. These all exist within the same organization. So within the site, you can have roaming clients and users. Roaming clients are installed per machine. We have iOS, Android, Windows, Mac. We also have a Chrome extension. If none of those work for you, the Chrome extension is very popular, especially with our education customers. So there are many deployment methods, and you kind of think of it as a hierarchy. So you as the MSP, then you have organizations under you, and then you have sites in the organization, and then roaming clients of any type belong to a specific site. So that's kind of deployments at a high level. And I'll look at obviously the policies is kind of like where the meat, where everything happens. You can see that these sites are assigned a policy and a block page. So the policy page just kind of lists all the policies. There's various options. I think I was working on this one. I called it danger. So we can do content filtering. We can, I think we have 36 categories that we can filter by. You can see them here. It's really easy to enable and disable them. These changes, as you make them, occur relatively quickly, within 10 to 15 seconds. Sometimes you may have to like clear your DNS cache or something, but typically 10 to 15 seconds and they'll be activated. We also have a safe search function, and this is to kind of filter the search results for the most popular search platforms: Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo, and YouTube. Then we have our threats tab, and these are kind of the the things that you want to specifically pay attention to. We've got our botnets, crypto mining, all that, malware. There's various schools of thought internally about the best way to set this up. Some people want to restrict new domains, which is, domain register within 30 days. That's probably a great idea. Obviously, botnet, crypto mining, malware, and phishing and deception are pretty crucial. Translation sites can be used to circumvent DNS filtering. So that's why it's one of the threat in the threat section. And then proxy and filter avoidance can also be used to circumvent DNS filtering. So that's why it's here. But proxy and filter avoidance does include things like cloudfront.net and things like that. So it can get cumbersome if you enable that. I'm going to skip over AppAware for a moment because that's one of our newer features that I'm going to go over in a minute. So then we have our allow list and our block list. This is just a list of domains and or subdomains that you want to block specifically. I have a few here. And then our advanced tab, NAT IPs is kind of an advanced feature. You can certainly look in our docs for more information about that or reach out to our support team. It's very powerful. If you cannot deploy roaming clients, you can have unique policies for sections of your organization. So that's a pretty powerful feature. You want to check it out. We also can block advertising domains, park sites and domains, and then a few other advanced features. So policies and deployments is kind of like where the basic things happen. Like you have to do those first before anything starts to work. But once everything starts working, within 15, 20 minutes, you'll start to see reporting data coming in. This is our new insights reporting system. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to display the vast amount of data that we have in a way that's easily understandable by you, the customer. So we've done kind of a lot of combining of our old reports onto one specific report. You can see what happened like on a graph. Let's see, these can see like spikes that happen for blocks and threats. And then this section here is actually our Data Explorer. It's a kind of a remodeled version of our Data Explorer. And we have a lot of filters that you can kind of narrow down the results. And then we have some breakdowns by domain, category, collection, user, and roaming client. So that's kind of where you can kind of pinpoint something that happened on your network. And we'll, kind of look at that a little bit more in the future if you want. And then the other sections of our dashboard, organizations, kind of configurations where you set up your users. There's GDPR settings here. We talked about that earlier. There's some interesting tools that are very helpful. Query log specifically, which it shows the raw DNS logs of all the searches happening on your network, all the DNS queries on your network. You can see what's happening here on Wayne Enterprises. So you can see like Slack, Dropbox, see what's happening. You can filter by blocked or allowed, just to see who's doing it and what they're doing. And one of the key features of our new insights reporting is this data, this raw query data, is available in insights after you drill down by a specific breakdown. So along with the query log, we have a policy audit log, so you can see who did what at what time. Like Mikey Pruitt changed the danger policy at a certain time. Why did he do that? Maybe you need to ask Mikey why he did that. And then we have our domain report. This is a crucial tool. So what is it? RocketMSP.io, right? Oops. So you can see the domain report kind of just gives you the categories of any domain. And then you can report an inaccurate category to us, which does happen. We want to be as up to date as we can, and you, the crowd, can kind of help us keep everything as accurate as possible, and certainly report any security threats that you know about. On the screen, you can also add this specific domain we're looking at to an allow or a block list. And this domain report feature is pretty popular, and we have it listed under the support dropdown as well. And then I guess I can jump into the new stuff. Steve, do you have any questions for me? Or do you think anything wasn't quite clear?
Are you able to do like a global across all your MSPs, like whitelist RocketMSP.io?
So we do have global policies. We're working on a few.
Not a policy, just hard code it. Like literally just whitelist my company's domain name.
Actually, I think Brian can handle that. Brian, if you want to jot down that domain name and then,
I'll get it nod. I'll get it in the dev queue. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we just proxy everything to your website?
I don't want to make the internet harder to use. All right. Let's look at some of this new stuff. Now I gotta say, you intentionally skipped over something called App Aware, and I have a question that maybe App Aware answers.
All right, let's hear the question.
I have a colleague who has signed up for Augment, and the biggest reason he signed up for Augment is because Augment uses the DNSFilter logs to find out which cloud apps are being used, like Dropbox and G Suite, and
Mm-hmm.
So, is that what AppAware does?
So AppAware is actually part of a filtering policy. So we do have that information, and we do want to, surface to you like these are the apps utilized on your network. That's kind of the next step in AppAware. But what it does right now is we know those domain names, and we have kind of collected them together. So like think of Facebook, for example. So Facebook on your phone, Facebook on the web, they all use different domain names, various domain names. So in order to successfully block Facebook, you have to block several domains at once. And what AppAware does is it just says it's just an icon of Facebook, and you just click it, and that policy is now protected from Facebook. And I think there's not over 900 apps that we have categorized with that. But you're right. The next step is to kind of bring to light what is being utilized on the networks, and that will happen in our reporting system.
So what I think I'm hearing is if somebody's sole reason for signing up with Augment is to see what tools are being utilized at each of their clients, and Augment is getting that information from your logs, that someday in the near future, hopefully before 2021 is ended, we will be able to get that information in a report directly from DNSFilter and could cancel Augment.
That is the plan.
That's the plan. And I think 2021 is a safe time frame. I'm comfortable with that. You hear that, dev team?
I just got quite possibly the best compliment I've received yet about this beard. With that beard, you look like you should be a yard gnome. That's amazing.
Is that a compliment?
Of course it's a compliment.
Everything's a compliment.
So my church does this really big outreach event every year, and I told them I will grow out my hair and beard if they promise to do Harry Potter as next year's theme, and I'll be Hagrid. This now it's all starting to make sense, right? This year the theme was Star Wars, and we nailed it, man. So I think we now have the ability to pull off Harry Potter.
How much longer do you have to grow?
Well, I mean, we just did the event last week, so 51-ish more weeks. That's assuming they say, yes, we're doing this. So I don't know yet. We'll see. They might say, yeah, we're going a different direction, and I just get rid of it. Maybe I just want to be the IT guy or the website guy for ZZ Top. Who knows?
You can play either role with that beard.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of beards at DNSFilter, and there's some, significant ones. We have we need an annual beard off.
Maybe. All I know is John attempted to hurt my feelings. Instead, he didn't. Better luck next time. All right, so we were talking about the Appleware. So can you show us what Appleware does today?
Yeah, you were actually talking about canceling stuff and favoring DNSFilter instead. So
yeah, we'll just get rid of Augment if that's literally the only reason we have Augment. Then we can cancel Augment for DNSFilter.
For sure, and that is a feature that is kind of next on our docket. So natural continuation of all this data that we have for Appleware is to showcase it, like we were talking about. But for right now, this is a preview feature. You're kind of seeing it here first. We've kind of shown screenshots of it here and there. But what we're looking at is one portion of the filtering policy that we're setting up, and we can block. I think like I said, there's over 900 apps here that we can block specifically, and it could be you want to block the social media apps and make it real easy for IT admins to block Snapchat or whatever they want to do. But there's other things that may be more business focused. For example, say you're a shop that doesn't use Salesforce, so there's no reason for your staff to be on Salesforce, and if they are, maybe they're doing something they shouldn't be. So you want to block that as well. So there's tons of apps in here. Just look around, see what you can block. One click block. It's very easy. This is actually all available via our API as well. If you want to go that route, certainly feasible. But yeah, that's kind of Appleware in a nutshell. And you can see what you have blocked with this toggle here.
Can I see what the big long list of apps looks like?
We may have that in our documentation, but I'm not sure exactly. But I'll make sure it gets posted somewhere. But you can see these, and these categories actually match the DNS filtering categories. So you can see there's a whole bunch of them, but I'll make sure that gets posted somewhere in our documentation and get the links out there. But yeah, we're really, really excited about Appleware. It's kind of been danced around. People kind of ask for, I want to block, bandwidth hogs was one customer's request, and another customer was, I want to block streaming sites like Netflix or whatever. And you can put like Netflix.com in your block list, but there's various domains that Netflix uses that you may have to search for, and instead of doing that searching, we're doing it for you. So a lot of people with guest Wi-Fi, for example, like at the gymnasium we're talking about, may want to block iOS updates and Windows updates so that their bandwidth isn't clogged by their everybody's apps updating while they're exercising, things like that. So there's a lot of flexibility here, a lot of use cases, and we're pretty excited about it. Any questions about it?
I'm really excited about that. So day one, when that launches, is it launched?
Not quite yet.
Okay. So day one, when that launches, we'll be able to block certain apps, services, whatever you want to call them. We could even block an entire category. And how is this different than creating a policy that says, I don't want people to see adult content? Like, I could just go into the policy and say, I don't want people going to youtube.com.
Correct.
Yeah, that's go ahead, Brian.
Oh yeah, no, I was just going to say it's a finer level of control in this particular case. So if there were specific applications where you didn't want to block the whole category, adults probably not the best example to use in that particular case. I don't think you're going to be very selective on which ones you want to block or allow. But in many of the other cases, like it doesn't necessarily make sense to block information technology or block business, for example. When you're really looking to block a specific tool.
Exactly. And social media is kind of an easy example. Like you don't want to necessarily block all social media, but you want to block, the 3 or 4 that you don't want people using on your network. So, but yeah, it's more fine grained.
So, when and then the other thing to think about is, for example, if you wanted to block YouTube by selecting YouTube as the service in here, that's also going to probably block what is it, like ytimg.com or whatever they're using as the domains that hosts all of the thumbnail images, and they might have a different URL where they're hosting all of the actual video media and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what you're saying is by saying I just want to block YouTube, this blanket blocks everything that you guys know is associated with YouTube.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we have lists available, public lists available on our GitHub page, but it was too cumbersome. So we've kind of devoted some time to manage the list for everyone and introduce many more services and apps.
So I've got a few questions I want to go through. First, related, how are you dealing with the use of CDNs to get around blocking?
Brian, you want to take that one?
Well, so there's a few different things going on there. For advertising, we understand that CDNs and specifically CNAMing in general is a way which people are using to get around advertising in the first place. So that's actually something we're currently working on, that anything in the CNAME chain is going to get blocked for advertising. So that won't be a big issue. Now, in terms of some of the less popular CDN sites, in those particular cases, we may not catch all of the related CDNs. Our machine learning AI does as good a job as possible to link and relate CDNs to specific customers, but there are cases where that may not be possible. In general, though, if we're blocking either applications or categories, for the most part, because the majority of the domains are blocked themselves, the page, category, app typically doesn't work in the first place. But it is theoretically possible that, yes, some direct links to CDNs could still be accessible, but that's typically not a common case that we see.
And what about if we decided we wanted to block an entire category, but maybe we want to have a couple things that are whitelisted? Can we then whitelist those items still?
So that's something we're working on. The problem with a whitelisted approach is, in some cases, and again, getting back to the CDN case, in some cases, the requirements to get an application or page working in entirety is often much more complicated than simply blocking some of the key resources. So, for example, if you were to block social media but allow certain things like just a Instagram or just a Facebook, oftentimes there are some CDN resources. We would have to catch them all in that particular case. specifically whitelist that application. So it didn't turn out to be as reliable as we were hoping. So we didn't enable it in this release. We'll look at it in the future if we're satisfied with the quality of the data.
Right.
Okay.
Basically, explicit allow is more complicated.
Andy asks if there have been any improvements on the agent update process. Currently, when the agent updates, the internet will drop for that user until the update completes.
So that's a good question. I think my first question would be which agent. So some of them, like I said, we're still expanding the team and replacing some of those early contractors with better skilled people. So if there is a specific agent, like I'm not sure if that's Android or iOS or Windows, whatever the case may be, in that particular case, let us know. That could be a bug that we are not aware of, and we will do our best to fix it.
Yeah, definitely reach out to our support team. They're very skilled, and I'm sure they can. If something is wrong, they can direct it to the product team and the dev teams, and we can get it fixed for you.
And I'm just he says Windows PC agent. So I feel like that's probably your most popular agent. And
it is.
You would have heard if this was a thing by now.
So I would expect to, because I haven't heard that before. Definitely reach out to our support team. I'm sure they can help figure out what the exact issue is. Part of the challenge is the deployment process can be, everyone's network can be slightly different. So there may be something either in the system itself, whether there's VPNs or things going on there. There could be strange DNS settings being sent over DHCP. There could be a variety of things. I haven't heard of that specifically, and it's like you said, Windows is definitely our most popular agent. So, let's if we can get it fixed for you, definitely we'll do our best to do so.
And Shiva also mentioned that fish links are coming from a CDN. So is that something that you're able to? Are you able to do anything about the phishing links that are now using CDNs?
So to some extent, we are scanning things. Our machine learning engine is scanning things just as a browser would, and we're using a variety of indicators. It doesn't necessarily matter where it's hosted. Obviously, some burying a specific thing deep in a CDN is there's only so many things that we can catch, and targeted phishing is also a challenge as well, because if it's extremely targeted, our machine learning engine doesn't have enough data to properly identify it as malicious. It doesn't really matter if the destination is a CDN, S3, like an EC2 instance. It doesn't really matter. Our scanning engine, will scan it and do its best to identify it.
All right. Next question: has the performance on the interstitial instant scan has that page performance been improved? Previously, this would take upwards of 5 minutes.
So we're trying to work on a solution for that. I'm not sure if it's going to be in 2021 or not. The challenge is not that the response is not fast enough. One of the challenges is that the browser is inappropriately caching the DNS result. So in some instances. So what happens is our interstitial page, if it comes across an unknown domain, it will send people to our server temporarily. We send back a relatively short TTL time to make sure that it's can be refreshed fairly quickly. And our machine learning takes typically in the 10-second or less range. However, it turns out that some browsers are caching well beyond that low TTL time. in some cases, 5 minutes does sound like a Chrome thing. So it is something we're working on, looking at a proxying solution that will speed up that for everyone, regardless of the particular browser. But we haven't gotten to it yet.
Man, these questions just keep coming. I love it. Are you doing your development stateside? Did you or do you use Code Cov? I'm not familiar with.
I mean, if it sounds like a code, it sounds like a code coverage tool. In any case, our code is a little bit of all over the place. We have people, a bunch of developers in the U.S., people from other countries, especially early on, a variety of places. Colombia, for example. We had someone from I think it was Belarus early on. Anyway, it's now we're focusing more on US based developers now that we're a little more larger of a team. Early on we had cost restrictions, which was a challenge. We do have a CI/CD pipeline for most tools in our infrastructure there, and automated test frameworks, and we've done code audits for large customers in the past, pen testing in the past. So
another thing to point out with our team is that DNSFilter started as a distributed team. We don't really have an office. We never have, and that's one of our strengths, is that we can hire the best talent from around the globe and put them to work on hard problems. So not the best developers don't exist in one place. So we get the benefit of seeking them out where they are.
And real quick, I just want to throw this up because I think this is why they were asking about Code Cov. I don't know if that's how it's supposed to be pronounced. So this service here, I don't actually know what it does, but this came up, and it seems kind of important. So I think that's why Shiva and maybe some of the other people are asking if you do or have ever used Code Cov.
No.
Because, okay. Well, that's good.
Listen, woo, well done.
So
how are you tracking your code as you have your team making changes to it?
Their tracking could imply a variety of things. What specifically? Do you mean like version control? Are you talking about analytics or?
Version control, security, safety, who's doing what, that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so we do have periodic pen tests and code reviews for a variety of products that we have. Specifically, some of the roaming clients. It's just been a requirement of some of the partners that we've had. Everything's version controlled, backed up. We have a whole disaster recovery set up. For us, it's not only the code that's a issue. Our Anycast network is substantial, and that's also a big portion of the security concerns and uptime. Because we have one of the fastest, reliable Anycast DNS networks. I think we're up to almost 50 locations now. That's also a substantial piece, making sure that is secure. So, not sure if that totally answers your question, but
I think that helps. Let's talk about those other guys for a second. Cisco Umbrella, formerly known as OpenDNS. they've been around a while. I think they've been around longer than you, or at least I've known about them longer than you. So I would like to think they probably have a more mature set of features, as you know, even you guys can probably admit to that. They've just been around longer, and they have, you know, Cisco money to throw around. So, so why should people be using DNSFilter instead of Umbrella?
So in some cases, some of the advanced features that they may offer for unique situations, sure, they may they've been around longer, so they have I'm sure they have a couple of things that we don't. At the end of the day, though, they don't have our data, and that's something that does differentiate us significantly. And in a lot of cases, we aren't second in terms of data. We're a lot better than they are, and we identify things faster and more reliably. So, yeah, I mean, in some advanced integrations, there may be something that we're missing, and we're working on those. But in general, yeah, the data is where we've put a lot of time and effort in, and we think we're the best.
Okay. So one thing that I think some people are probably wondering, here's another issue, and then I'll come back to that. Someone asked if there's a way for a user to force. There was a way for a user to force stop the Android client, which would allow them to bypass blocking. Is that still possible? And if so, is there any way that you guys can prevent that?
So I will have to check on that. In theory, because businesses are the typical deployment that we're looking at, most of the cases involve an MDM solution.
That was going to be my thought too.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, certain Android devices just give the user significant amounts of control. And then we're forced to make the decision, do we try to get around the system to enforce the policy, and how detailed do we have to go down that route? Similar issues exist for other operating systems. But again, in a business environment where there's some security policies in place, typically that's what we recommend. But for sure, if there is a scenario where we have a feature request roadmap on our site, if there is a scenario where that is a problem and there's no way around that, or if this is just something where there's a common use case that we're not thinking of, definitely let us know. I mean, we're more than happy listening to our customers and giving them the best experience possible. So
I'm seeing, I haven't actually been able to see the Reddit thread itself, but I've had a few people tell me that there have been one or more Reddit threads talking about the issue where, the PC agent goes offline. So I guess I have a multifaceted question here. One is to the users. Has anybody actually reported it to DNSFilter? Because if you haven't, I mean, you can't expect them to fix something that you're complaining about on Reddit. I mean, they may eventually see it, and they may eventually add it to the roadmap, but if they don't actually know that it's happening to more than a couple, angry keyboard warriors, how do they know it's a real issue? But two, it sounds like there have been a couple of, maybe important sounding things that people are looking to have you guys fix. And it's frustrating for people to see that you're like rolling out more features instead of fixing the ones that you have. So how are you guys able to kind of like justify that and say, well, here's why we rolled out more features instead of fixed ones that are currently broken?
So, yeah, I mean, in every case, it's a trade-off, right? And specifically when it comes to things that are broken, there's two components. The first is there a fix for a particular problem, or is it just an inherent issue? And the second is how many people are actually affected. As far as I know, we don't have any large scale persistent issues. The interstitial one is a good example of it's a very challenging problem to solve. And now that we have resources to look at that, that's one of those innovative features we're looking to tackle in the near term. For things like a particular roaming client going offline, I mean, like you said, if it's not reported, we don't have any visibility into that. But in general, I like to think that our support development loop there is tight enough where we try to tackle customer issues as fast as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And the Windows roaming client has the most failover scenarios out of any of our roaming clients. So if you're having problems with the Windows roaming client, definitely reach out to our support team.
All right. And you can do that by emailing what, like Brian.Gillis at, no?
It's support at DNSFilter.com.
Yes, support at DNSFilter.com. If you email Brian or Mikey directly, one, they'll probably just put you in their spam filter, and two, it won't get the problem fixed. So don't do that.
I wouldn't say that.
That is true.
Maybe Brian.
Our support team has a very good turnaround time. So if you have if there is a chat session that you're doing, I think the turnaround time is typically 4 minutes for a response or less for the support team. And email, I want to say it's less than 4 hours to at least get a response. Time to resolution is probably a little longer depending on the tier level that it has to get escalated to. But in general, I think initial tier one, we'll try to get back within the 4 hour time.
This question is kind of a feature request also. Ian would like to know, Umbrella has a direct connection via API to ConnectWise, maybe Autotask, he just doesn't know. It creates a DNS summary of all transactions for the last day and week into a configuration. Is there any possibility of you guys adding this type of feature?
So
I'll
go ahead.
Let me take this one. So this actually leans into one of our newer features that we kind of had on the docket to discuss. We did an integration with Zapier, which does have a ConnectWise Manage app on it, so you can actually do that connection. Now we do realize that integrations like that is, people are screaming it to us, but it is very time consuming to manage all those relationships and get direct API connections going. That is something we will tackle. But it is what we have done is done a Zapier integration, which gets us most of the way there with minimal effort on the customer's part. So our Zapier integration is very easy to use. There's a handful of templates set up that you can just utilize right out of the box. They're on our help site. You can just click on them, add to Zapier. If you're not familiar with Zapier, reach out to me or our support team. We'd be happy to kind of guide you along on various things that we know you can do. And I'm sure you can come up with things we haven't even thought about, because there's like 3,000 or so apps in the Zapier ecosystem that can do that. Regarding,
I was just going to say, I utilize Zapier pretty extensively as well. So if you're a member of RocketMSP, you can always just pop something right into the Slack channel, and we can work on it together. But I see some frustration now. So now we have yet another third-party application that we have to manage. But I think the sure, we can complain about, yes, another thing to pay for, but I think the reason that you guys did Zapier is because You've just given us the ability to integrate into just about whatever we want using a third-party connecting tool like Zapier, instead of waiting, okay, well, which one do we do, ConnectWise or Autotask? I mean, you're going to piss off a segment of your MSP partners by just making the decision as to which one of those you choose. So obviously, by picking Zapier, you've now pissed all of them off. So, all right. So let's. So you said Zapier was kind of on the list of things to talk about. Let's talk about Zapier.
All right.
How do we want to show the screen again?
Yeah, sure.
So walk me through this. This looks pretty. You got a nice integration page.
Yeah, so these are all of our new integrations with Zapier. I will admit we're cheating a bit, but these are all Zapier apps that have viable connections that you could utilize with DNSFilter. So what we've done is our Zapier integration, we have several triggers and actions. So triggers and actions are like a keyword that are prevalent in Zapier. I don't think I'll describe Zapier too much here, hoping that most MSPs are going to understand what the tool is and what it does. But if you look on our help site, there's actually several templates that we have. And our support manager, Josh, wrote up these, did a great job. There's a handful that are already set up. This is one where you can trigger a notification to a Slack channel if there's a blocked attempt for a phishing, malware, or botnet site. And actually, I'll use this one as an example. So we can try it out right here, and it'll kind of give us a blueprint, essentially. I'm going to cheat a little bit because I set this up earlier, but the Zapier Zap is kind of pre-filled for you, and you just have to connect your DNSFilter account and your Slack account and kind of do some minimal setup. And this is the finished version. What we're doing here is detecting, we're doing a trigger on someone visited a block page, which may be, a high volume event. A lot of block pages may get shown on your networks, and you don't want to know about every one. So then we're filtering by the specific category. So we're picking malware, phishing, and botnet categories to alert on. And then we're just going to dump that to a Slack channel because it's easier for the demo, essentially.
So you don't want to know that all the sales guys tried looking at porn?
No, we don't want to know that. So what I'm going to do is go to our, let's see, I'll go to a known malware domain in my browser. All right, so it's blocked. That's nice. My block page, and then this action alone will then trigger this new alert here on Slack. So just like that, we've got a block alert set up for this particular network, and that's just one of the almost endless amount of things you can do with our Zapier integration.
Now, Eric brings up a good point, and he says that having Zapier is allowing a third party to possibly have access to data. You guys are a security company. Why for you do that?
Yeah, so it is a question. At the end of the day, we try to provide as much flexibility and decision making in the hands of the user. So sure, in this particular case, we weighed the trade-offs of getting something like Zapier in customers' hands so that they can tackle as many integrations as they need to do the things that they need to. But however, it is a consideration. If there is sensitive information that they don't want, if they're particularly privacy focused, there may be some things that they don't want to set up and send through to Zapier. It is their choice at the end of the day. And the integrations is something that we're working on over time. However, you did mention we run into the same problem of who do you irritate first? If you pick a particular integration, you exclude to some extent all of the other customers that are using other options. So yes, the integrations is something we're pushing forward on hard. The next integration coming up is SIM integration, Splunk S3 as a fallback, and then again expanding from there. But yes, anytime we are doing these integrations, we are going to be sharing data with some third-party vendor for sure.
And again, why piss off some of them when you can piss off all of them? So
Pretty
kudos. I say kudos. Do you have any other cool new features that you guys launched that you want to show off?
Those are kind of the ones that we wanted to go over, but Brian just mentioned that we do have SIM integrations, S3 integrations, kind of coming up soon. The point there is that no matter how good our reporting is inside of our app, many customers don't want to get that data, get the DNS data out so that they can do analysis in the tool they already use, like Splunk, or there's many other SIMs that are on the docket. And unfortunately, there's no Zapier for SIMs to just do one integration that satisfies all of them. So we are looking at the most popular ones. If you are a user of a SIM, please let us know which one it is so that we can kind of put a tally in that SIM's corner to see which ones we do in what order. So kind of what we're working on next.
Yeah, so I would say if you're having an issue, maybe you update a Windows PC agent and your device goes offline until the update completes, or you are using a SIM and you wouldn't mind being a guinea pig with getting DNSFilter information into your SIM, or maybe you have another issue, or maybe something else you want to complain about, or whatever, right? Just send an email over to support@dnsfilter.com. It's there on the screen. Guys, did we beat you up enough today?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
I was expecting worse. Come on, Steve, bring it on.
You hear that, guys? He was expecting worse.
No, I mean, we
Worse,
do.
he
We
says.
love hearing from our customers. Like, DNSFilter was built on, our customers are just a wealth of knowledge, and we're always here to listen. We're very excited to interact with them in any way that we can. I see Andy's comment there.
Do they give marriage advice? Now, Andy, you haven't even... Has it even been a year yet? You should have zero problems. Get out of our faces. Here, I'll give you some advice. I gave this advice to my best friend when he got married. I said, never go to sleep if you're mad at your spouse. You never go to sleep angry. And I'm just so tired, man. So tired. But good news is he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. He got divorced. Long story. Anyway, so yeah, I like what I've seen. I like these new features. You can go to DNSFilter.com. You can get yourself set up with a trial, shoot them over an email, and mention that you watched or listened to this podcast. They'll even extend your trial from a 2-week to a 1-month trial. So thank you guys for doing that for everyone. One person asked if you have special pricing for nonprofit. Do you do anything with TechSoup or anything like that?
We don't. Depending on the size, our sales team may be able to work something out. But in general, no. Education is typically the kind of the lowest pricing option we offer.
Okay. And let's be honest, nonprofits, those guys are rolling in cash, so you should actually charge them more. So.
There you go.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much, Mikey and Brian, for doing this. I can't wait to have you back so you can show off the SIM integration and any other updates that you guys make, in a few months or however long. Cool?
Sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for watching. And I will see everybody at the next podcast episode. Take care.